they were sitting there, and then I see a Tom Kent showing up, so I can't go for it. And I didn't press tab, but they told me after the game that he didn't have his item. So I was really frustrated not knowing that, but yeah, I had to run back, and then I had to do my camps. I was like really late, so I think I got a disadvantage in the early game, and I could have played it much better. I think we ran it back because we were probably not happy with how we played, and we know that we could play it much better, and I'm pretty sure we showed it in the second game.
Rock, no smite, and he gets it, but he's gonna die. 1v1 me, bro. Mickey looking for some supportal combat.
The second game is exactly how we wanted to play the draft and like do our game, and it's a bit sad we couldn't do it in the first game, but I'm happy we could prove it and show it in the second game. I think Nautilus is not really a carry, so he probably needs a carry somewhere, and I like to play carry younger, so it's kind of perfect playing with me. And yeah, I think Nidalee Nautilus is pretty strong. We have a really good Nautilus support on Mickey X, and then Caps is also spamming him in solo queue and smurfing a lot in solo queue, so why not put it mid as well? I think it's going to be a good match between G2 and PSG. I think they're going to be, for sure, a hard team. I don't think any team is bad here, but I think we should have the edge over them.
Thank you so much, Yike, and welcome back to MSI 2023 and the featured matchup presented by Mercedes-Benz. The LEC's G2 Esports will be facing off against the PSG Talon squad from the PCS. Now, you saw the players there on stage. They're finishing up their ready checks. So I wanted to do a pre-match that had two main goals. On day one of this show, I asked Raz and Gulborg to do a presentation to teach me about some of the teams. So I've challenged these guys to give us a mini lecture on how each of these squads will win today. Once I've done that, we're then going to find out what you think at home. Who do you think is going to win? And I've actually found a few fans in here. I've challenged them to draw the logos or the teams or draw something to tell me who they're going to win. So those are the two things I want to do. Let's start with Dagda. Which team are you doing? And tell me how they're going to win.
Yeah, look, I'll break it down for you, young Padawan. I really think that G2 are going to be able to take this one. It has been absolutely spectacular to see G2 over the course of the split, how they've evolved coming from winter into spring. And a huge amount of this is looking at that very first point, which is going to be getting Yike onto a carry. This guy's been absolutely spectacular when we've seen him on the things like the Belveth domestically. But even yesterday, we saw some great plays coming through from him on the Nidalee. This is where I really want to see him trying to break that down even further. And then to kind of go through that even more is to have Caps on a facilitator. Have Caps there, so then he can actually try and play around Yike there and actually work towards getting the successful push in mid and then play for these invades. We see it a lot where he's gone towards things like the Sejuani. Now we've got the Nautilus. We've even seen things like the Zac in the back as well. And that has been so incredibly important coming into this. And the final one that I want to see is looking towards Mickey X on engage as well. Because when we've been seeing Mickey X having things like the Rel, he's been absolutely spectacular. Especially when you think towards game one against Loud, he was the big difference maker for them. Especially on the Rel, flashing forward, getting these massive engages. This is where you need Mickey X to once again step up and enable the likes of Caps to be that secondary engage tool. But more importantly, let Yike and Hans Sama free fire from the backline.
Oh, you make it sound so simple, Dagda.
He does.
Once we hear Rez, I'm going to ask everyone at home. I want you to judge their performances. That's what I look at. Okay, Rez, now I know you're doing PSG. How is this going to work, all right?
All right, very much. For me, PSG's goals to success, ban Nautilus on blue. Just straight up landed on blue. And also, if you're on red side trying to counter-pick support, I think it was a great strategy coming in from Loud to do that. Of course, the execution was quite poor, but I think if you go for that one, it might be better for you to either bait it on red side or just take it away on the first go away. Now, second plan for me, unlike Messi, I want a planned trip to the mid lane for Woody. I think Woody going straight towards mid lane and trying to impact and threaten Caps before he even gets the opportunity to roam and help out the side lanes or roam and help out Yike. I think that's the best way to play it out. And then for the third plan, I have straightforward, front to back. Be there for Woody no matter what. No, be there for Wako no matter what. I think the front-to-back team fights have been incredible. Even in the games that were quite poor in the early game for PSG, they came back off of Wako's immaculate team fighting. And so those are the three steps that I have for them to be able to take this win.
Well, I really, really like that. If you guys are at home on Twitter, jump onto it and let us know. Who do you think was better? Dagdacast and Razzleplasm? I never remember this.
Razlol.
That's it. Razlol. That's what we want to do. Let's know who was voting, who was better. I also want to ask you guys who you think is going to win. Before I get your take, though, I want to share with you what some of the fans think. And we're going to do that by starting with the fans predicting over at MasterCard Fan Predictions. Each day, you can head over to MasterCard Nexus on Twitter to participate. And the fans have voted with 85% in favor of G2 Esports. You can actually hear the crowd reacting to that. It is obviously I was going to say it's a European show, we're in England, it's not. But now we need to find out what some of our audience members in-house think. So, I'm going to ask to head to one of our cameras down on the floor, and I'd like to introduce to everybody watching at home, everybody here in the venue, to Luke, David, Jody, and Kitty. I'm assuming that's from right to left. So Kitty, Jody, David, and Luke. In 5 seconds, I want you to reveal who you predicted, and then we're going to judge your drawings, okay? So 3, 2, 1. London, please cheer as we see who they have predicted. Oh, okay, so we've got 2-1 in favor of G2, 2-0 in favor of G2, 2-0 in favor of... This is all 4 members.
There it
But,
is.
Raz, what do you think of the drawings? What do you think of the writing?
The writings are quite nice. Wait, delete who? Delete you,
I'll take this
me!
time. Okay, I like that one.
person already went.
I like that one. I like the person, but I will give you a little bit of feedback from the old man on the cast. If you shake the art, we can't see what's happening. So, 85% of you on Twitter are with G2. All 4 of them are. Only one of them had a 2-1 scoreline. Raz, anticipations and predictions for the series.
Even though I laid out how I think PSG can win, I think it's going to be a 2-0 for G2. Just based off how they performed in their game 2 versus Loud, was a clean one.
We have a couple of minutes just before we go to casters and get ready for draft, so give me a little bit more detail. I know you talked about PSG's keys to success. Maybe single in on maybe some champion picks or play styles so that we can give the casters some additional content.
Funny enough, even though the Nautilus was the big focus, we've been seeing a lot of the supported picks coming in from Caps throughout his time during the LEC. Sejuani was another one, and even if he gets unlocked on that one, I think Caps is an incredible playmaker. People tend to forget that, even off of his earlier poor performances. Now he's on the big stage, and he attempts to perform then too. So Yike is a damn crazy jungler. And also, just like what we saw in both games, Broken Blade was a highlight player, and he's been playing crazy stuff that you can't predict, like the Cassiopeia, so I have a lot of faith in their drafts.
Yeah, I think the big one is the drafts. Also the big one is the way G2 as a group work together. Because when you look across, every so often we'll see Junja not quite working with some of his lanes. The lanes are also working fully to support him. And I think that's where the big problem is going to be. If you end up with this facilitator style for Caps, where Yike is looking to get into your face and invade, you've got Mickey X's room to support as well, I think Junja gets left high and dry. Junja wants to facilitate, Yike wants to carry, and G2 are better set up to let him carry than I feel like Junja is at being able to facilitate his team right now.
Absolutely. I came into this tournament being high on PSG, and in both of the games that they had versus Detonation Focus Me, I was quite upset. I don't think they performed as well as I expected, and I think it's only going to get worse versus a much more veteran team in G2.
I will tell you right now, game 1 of G2 series, I was not very happy with how G2 played.
There it is.
And while I had a little bit of memes and jokes and leaning into the Brazilian fan base and predicting Loud, I don't quite share the same level of let's say, firmness or stability in some of these expectations. I think both of these teams had shaky first series. There's a lot that they need to focus on and improve on. So I want to see who's going to be, stepping up, who's going to grow and develop, and whether or not there's like clash of styles in terms of whether or not Yike or Junja can actually activate their teams or use their specific play style to manage to pick up that win.
Yeah, I think the big one is that when you look towards Yike, the fact that, look, even in the replay, the package that we ran at the start of the day, Lulu working with him to get these early kills and set them up, it's very much a case of, okay, well, let's all gather around Yike. I mean, even in this one, you got Lulu, you got the Nautilus here, everyone is playing to try and get Yike forward. The problem is when you're trying to play as Junja, you are the one trying to support your team, so it's very difficult if you've got the cavalry rifle for G2 to try and compete with just the sheer numbers advantage they have.
Absolutely, and we're seeing a lot of dives happen here versus Loud. Loud just wasn't really coordinated enough to be there for those dives as predictable as they were. I don't think it's going to be as easy going up against PSG, and if I'm able to give PSG anything, right, because obviously I said 2-0 there, I think Junja as a player, no matter if he's on a tank, he performs really well mechanically alongside Yubao.
Very quick final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think as well, team fights for PSG, that could definitely be a big win for them. Their team fighting is immaculate, their objective setup is immaculate as well.
Well, we're ready to go. Players are now seated finally in their seats. So on behalf of Luke, David, Jody, and Kitty, if G2 lose, it's your fault.
Agreed.
You can feel the discomfort in the room.
All right, just taking responsibility away from G2 on that one. I'm Dracos. Joining me is Mark Z.
Yep. I'm sure EU and G2 fans are used to a different Mark casting, so I've tried to channel it as much as I can. XDD, that's illegal, is I believe.
Wow, you did a great job.
Same person.
It's like I never left.
Yeah, just trying to make you comfortable. Yeah.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm going to need that because as highlighted by the 3 disappointed dads on the desk, not seeing the levels we expected from a lot of the teams thus far in the tournament. It might be nerves. It might be the nature of best of 3s that you're more willing to take risks in a game. But certainly no team has looked super clean. So despite the fact that both these teams are 2-0, I don't think there's 100% confidence there when it comes to execution for either side, and this is an opportunity to change that story and show us that you can be the kind of team that just shows up, can cleanly 2-0 or cleanly 2-1, depending on how this looks. And we'll see. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think you saw still a lot of confidence from the people who were holding up their little predictions. But for both these teams, it was a similar story, though the games were flipped. There was a very close game 1 for G2 that they had to come back and win. For PSG, it was their game 2, where they almost lost to DFM. Both these teams were inside their base and had to make pretty massive comebacks. So both teams so far for PSG and G2 have been in similar situations, but still a lot of confidence in G2. I still feel very good about them. I know the European region has had been a lot of conversations around the format and all these things, but I really like Romain tweeting out like their scrim results in between Split 1 and Split 2.
Yeah.
Both very, very good. And I think it speaks to the talent that this team has, even if on a particular day they might struggle a little bit more.
Yeah, and execution is going to be the name of the game. Mickey did an interview with Horizon, kind of sat down talking about some of the team's issues at the moment. He said one of the issues was draft, and it's clear that they have a very defined draft strategy coming into the tournament. The other thing was mid-game and kind of taking their eye off the prize a little bit if they're not, wildly snowballing these leads. So you heard the draft talk about setting up with some of these niche picks like the Nautilus. I also love seeing bot lane getting Prio is a huge deal because it frees up Mickey to roam. Feels like it makes the game easier for Yike to play, who has really been kind of the center of attention on this team. Yeah,
it's really cool that G2 bringing in Yike as the rookie is the kind of guy that they have built the playstyle around for this tournament so far in the 2 games we've seen with the Nidalee games, and just the carry potentially has, Belveth and all these other things. It's really empowering to kind of power up your rookies in a similar, like C9 has done a similar thing whenever they bring in someone new, you adjust to their play style rather than trying to fit them to the mold that the team already has.
Yeah.
Given that you have veterans with so much experience and are so flexible, with Caps being able to be either the playmaker himself or a support-ish player for Yike, I think it's really cool to see them leaning into Yike.
See if they continue to do so in the draft. On the opposite side for PSG, looking at their mid-jungle to step up in a similar capacity. Saw a fantastic Ahri-Vi combo coming out yesterday for PSG. Definitely the most dominant game. They had that first game up against DFM. See if they want to do it again. But of course, G2 quick to ban the Vi away. I think it makes a lot of sense. The champion gives you so much. The floor of that champion, the reliability of that champion, so consistent. And we ask this question every time we see Hans Sama on a stage. Will they ban the Draven? The answer remains yes. Cassante, surprising, but it looks like they're just trying to limit some of the safer blind picks on the top side or potentially mid lane.
Yeah, I think Cassante Flex on red side has been a rising popular pick on the early rotation in the first 3 picks. You can grab that one, not really tilt your hand exactly where it's going to go, save your counter picks where you want. So it's just getting rid of that bit of flexibility. Aji has played it a bunch. We haven't seen it actually flex to Yubao yet, but I think just saying, hey, even if you are just blinding it, it's an annoying champion. So getting rid of that, getting rid of Poppy as well. A lot of topside focus.
Interesting, interesting. All right, well, the Nautilus being banned, no surprise when we've seen it entirely as a mid laner thus far from G2, but you can see how with a lot of the lower damage profile mid laners in the meta, you build Abyssal Mask and you're essentially unkillable.
Yeah, I saw an interview on Reddit. I can't remember which pro player it was from, but they're talking about like why Nautilus mid has been rising so much in popularity.
It's like other mids are bad.
Yeah, and it kind of actually, to be fair, makes sense to me where it's like, okay, this champion provides so much utility, but it's not super strong in lane. If it was able to get shoved out by other things, just Kennen, insta-lock. Wow.
And Kennen has been permabanned, and I think the nature of PSG going for so many G2-specific target bans means the pool right now is wide open. Their Annie is still on the board. Absolutely unfathomable to me that this champion has made it through thus far. And Kennen, of course, essentially an uncounterable top laner on the last few patches, the champion you just cannot shut down.
Well, I think it's a really interesting strategy that teams on red side sometimes go for, where you just leave up all the OPs, because usually there's like this checklist of bans you have to hit on red side, and what they've essentially said is handshaking, everything's up, we're just target banning you like we're on blue side.
Yeah.
Like you said, so you get rid of this Darius, which was incredible for Broken Blade on the first game of the day for them, or first game of the tournament for them.
Yep.
And instead he gets his Kennen though, like you said, very scary.
Yeah, Kennen definitely a terrifying prospect. Now, Xayah Rakan going to follow. We have to assume that the Nami is now going to come through from PSG. Could go for something else, but Lucian essentially exclusively paired with that champion for the last year. Now, if you've watched LEC cast, and if you haven't, that's okay.
You gave me this warning that was coming. You told me it was coming.
I don't like this duo because I think it requires incredibly high execution to get value out of it. But what I will say is, that's an LEC. I have not seen what PSG could do with the Lucian Nami, and they certainly looked incredible on the affiliates in their games previously, so maybe they could be the team that can execute this at the caliber it needs to be executed at to get value out of it.
Not often would I say that the LCS has the champions in their back pocket that the LEC doesn't, but in this instance, there were a number of good Lucian Nami lanes in the LCS. Prince obviously was a great one, but Stixxay as well. And
To
so
be fair, I mean, Gory also good at the Cassante mid. Cap's the only other one to play it in our region, and it did not look good. So credit to the LCS in that capacity.
there you go. But for Wako being the kind of de facto carry of this team, I think going out early and trying to get in bigger leads, he had a monstrous team fight carry on the Aphelios and stuff like that. But if you can just get Prio earlier on and actually just be funneling him gold the whole time, a little bit better.
I think the only concern that I have, well, this is one of Waco's, it is Waco's most played champion thus far this year. We saw PSG fall behind and ultimately come back through big, massive team fights, as you highlighted. This is not a champion that normally gets to do that. You don't comfortably outrange the Kennen in terms of threat. You don't comfortably outrange the Xayah. It is not an Aphelios. It is not a Jinx. So really going to need to see a higher and more consistent level of execution from PSG today. That said, I think the Annie is a perfect pick as an option to shut down Caps in the mid lane.
So interesting here, a lot of target bans thrown at Yike so far with the Bel'Veth and Nocturne, but not the Nidalee. As if they're saying, we're not concerned about this because of the magic damage profile already coming in from top lane. They think that maybe it'd be too much, and then the physical damage mid, some of the popular ones already banned out, like a Cassante Flex coming in there. So a very heads up play by them saying, hey, ban the 80 carry junglers that we think Yike might play instead of just following recent data.
Yeah, and hilariously, Nocturne most recently played as a mid laner for G2. So again, the G2 curveballs continue to come. I want to see how deep the pools are going to go. Now, opting for the Viego, continuing to take away 80 jungles. And as you highlighted, the second you have an AP top laner, it doesn't 100% confirm that you need an AD jungler, but more likely than not, it's going to be what they're looking towards. An option to take that away. That is Yike's all-time most played champion in his professional history. So, like to see it off the board. And Wukong, again, high-impact team fighter. G2 seem like they have a very clear draft strategy.
Ooh! You got baited! Okay! All right, so Kha'Zix, a champion that was recently buffed, especially with isolation changes, a little bit less focused on the pokey W playstyle, some slow pulled off evolve W, but isolation range dropped down significantly, so much easier to find targets to assassinate.
And Q damage buffed as well, so Kha'Zix, again, historically a very feast or famine champion, but G2, eyes on the prize. We've talked about it. Caps, utility mid laner. Looks like it will be the Gragas. It's about setup. It's about CC. Setting up Yike again for success. You have so many engage tools. And if Kha'Zix starts to take over, Nami's going to have a hell of a time. Viego's like, you can never walk alone through your own jungle ever again if this champion gets ahead. And going to have to see what Yike does with it. Because speaking of historic champions, I mean, back in the LFL, this was a champion that Yike made his name on. Yes, it's not Viego. It doesn't have the sheer quantity of games, but he was known for being an absolute terror on this pick.
All right, last pick for Aji. Going for the Malphite. Not played too much, only once this split, but a champion that is continuing this kind of all-in identity that they've built. Very, very hard engaged. They want to blow somebody up, start getting resets for the Viego. For the side of G2, they have a lot of tools to kind of absorb that. You can blow up one person. The rest of the team are all basically threats. And then with the Kennen ult, obviously Caps ult as well, Rakan, all these tools are great for if you just blow one person up, end up really short range, a lot of AoE available.
And Mark, I'm ready for a fist fight now, because I think you've highlighted it so well. It's PSG, blow up one champion, reset ad nauseum with Viego until you kill the enemy team. And G2, it's blow up all the champions by simultaneously pushing your R button.
R.
Just push R.
Yeah, I mean, this is also a very different identity for PSG than what we normally see. This is the third Viego game for Junjia, who's mostly playing support for the rest of the team. Things like Sejuani's or Wukong's and team fighting, and they are the slowest team in terms of bloodiness in the tournament, as well as one of the latest game teams, generally speaking. So they have really flipped their playstyle with this draft to something that we typically do not see out of PSG.
Ready to see if they can make it work on the stage. There's a lot of pressure to execute in the early game. Snowballing champions on the side of G2 quite easily. Kha'Zix, the one that we have to keep our eyes on. What's the clear speed look like with those Q buffs? Isolation, not that significantly clear, but the Q base damage buff coming through, how big is it going to be? And similarly, Junjia, can he match the pressure? Is he ready for this matchup? Is this something he's played against in solo queue or scrims? We're going to have to find out as we get into game one in this best of three.
Second best of three of the day. Winner moves on to the main stage of MSI, hoping to join BLG and the rest of the teams there.
And you can hear here in-house, G2 Army out in force, backing up the European second seed, their representatives. And this is a weird game, Mark, because normally when we prep for drafts, we're not...
You prep for drafts?
We're not a mile off. And I feel like this PSG one has completely caught me off guard, because the scaling looked really good. Like, say what you want about the early to mid-game execution, this team can fight mid-late game, and they have, in draft, hampered that ability, opted for more laning power. And it's going to be a tall task to outclass Mickey and Hansama in the laning phase, but that's essentially what you're asking for here.
I think this is in a best of series, this is an interesting strategy for game one, but I actually don't hate it in the sense that, like, Wako is your primary carry. You are playing, like you said, the most played bot lane. This part of the draft, at least, is very normal for PSG. And it's saying, can we actually beat Hans and Mickey in this kind of pretty common matchup that you tend to see a lot of the time? And if yes, that's going to force G2 to kind of adapt to this strategy you've gone for. If not, well, then you can always fall back into, like, the Aphelios Thresh lanes, Jinx Thresh, these kinds of things. And so for that angle for PSG, I like it a lot. For the rest of the draft, though, like you said, very different stuff. Not very many play champions. Like, this is only the second Annie game for Yubao and stuff.
Certainly now, as we just check in across the lanes. Nothing too exciting yet. Cole being taken early on makes a ton of sense. Again, the Malphite not going to provide a lot of kill pressure. Might as well get some more opportunity for Broken Blade. Leverage that range advantage and just try to have a bit of a gold lead early items and keeping a track on those ultimates, especially on the top side of the map, even though we are still pretty far away from that. And I really was wondering if we were going to get some crazy early game cheese. I think that even if it was G2's plan, this point would be heavily mitigated thanks to a very heads-up ward coming in from the side of PSG, making sure that they're tracking the Kha'Zix early pathing.
Yep, going to see the full clear of bot side up to top for Yike. Just trying to farm up initially on the Kha'Zix. Both teams actually full clear up to top side. See the level 2 early for G2, giving them prio in this lane early on. Lucian Nami, not the strongest, most insane level 1, compared to Xayah Rakan, where you press W and run at them, and with that buff are able to win most trades.
Ooh, but now Yike's getting frisky. This is a G2 classic. Get a little bit of pressure in the mid lane, start to leverage it to try to get Yike into the enemy jungle, start to get some vision down.
A lot of wards out of PSG, like you were kind of saying. So they see this moving. They saw Caps completely ditch mid lane. Junjia hovering up in the top side in case a dive comes through.
Caps in the area, not a ton of mana, but I don't know how much he needs to really pull this play off. Are they willing to commit for the dive is the big question. Just walking away for now, denying that's going to be the body slam initial. They're going to fall up immediately with damage. First blood for the Kha'Zix on the top side.
Nice slow play by G2 there. They saw the W used by Junjia, knowing that there's no more hard CC for this duo trapped in the turret. Kind of chased him out from underneath the turret a little bit, and then point blank body slam by Caps to land that stun. Easy kill, flash out. Nice first blood there. An instant teleport back to mid lane, not really losing anything for that play.
Great use of the advantage of the push that they were able to build in mid lane. Level 3 coming in on the bottom side of the map. Maybe where Lucian and Nami can start to fight back a bit here, but even more pressure on the PSG bottom side of the map. Now the top side already starting to fall apart. Kha'Zix getting a kill early is devastating. The good news is Junja still ahead in CS, able to grab a few creeps under the tower, able to grab an extra camp, but top lane's looking rough. Bot lane's even, and jungle is very ahead in favor of G2 at this stage of the game. It's not a massive, insurmountable gold lead, but it is definitely the kind of start G2 we're looking for.
So we'll take a look at this dive again. I'm checking to see if Yike was able to get isolation range, just how much were these buffs, because that minion gets shot right there. No, he's not definitely not isolated. I was like, how crazy is this? No, not at all. But yeah, just very clean execution. Like we said, they walk. Ooh, hold on, another fight in the top side.
Walking away, minion damage. Not going to be enough to finish the job. Haji, Junja on the way in. No flash for Broken Blade. Is going to use it to get over the wall, rather. Yike now in trouble. Flashing out to safety. He desperately needs to get this kill. He gets it with a W. He's going to get taken down here.
Oh.
Unless Junja, how long on the lead?
Down.
Waiting. No, can't quite sidestep it. Huge there for PSG if they're able to get that kill back.
Nice return kill there. Junjia back on the board, gets the buffs transferred as well. Aji does drop for it though. Wave pushed in as well, so this is going to get even worse for him in the CS deficit. Was not able to collect much of that wave during the initial dive. And then this repeat gank not too hot for him.
Hansama stepping up, not a ton of mana, but it doesn't look like he's going to need it. Woody, Caps coming in off to the side. Body slam will not connect. Wako slowed down, push out of the lane. Woody burns down. Wako still standing, but G2 getting everything they came for.
Caps is a menace already, making his pressure felt in both side lanes. A kill up to the top side, one down to the bot lane now as they escort this wave in.
Such a difficult situation for PSG. 1.4k gold lead, 5 minutes into the game. You've got a Kha'Zix who's already got serrated Dirk. And again, you're getting little bits back, but not nearly as much as you'd like here on the back of this play.
Very dangerous play by Broken Blade here, kind of baiting this one in, willing to go in for the setup stun into a minion wave, almost dies. Just barely stays alive, and Junjia not quite in range to find that cleanup kill. Flashed out by Broken Blade.
Oh, and just so awkward.
Yeah, just a long chase down sequence. The stun doesn't quite land.
Isn't quite fast enough to walk away. So many what ifs, so many things that are just on the edge here. Yike, not quite able to escape from this one. Would have been murder. He would have gotten, I mean, yes, he would have actually gotten away with murder. Context does get punished.
True.
At this point in the game, Woody doing what he can to protect his jungler's back, and only really the good news is Ubao not too far behind in XP.
Yeah, and this is a comp for PSG, which will be a little bit stronger at 6s, as, again, Caps is being a menace.
And this is, if you did not watch LEC meta, Gragas, an absolute menace! Oh, it's the alley-oop!
The slam dunk by Yike following up the explosive cast by Caps, knocking him back in. Absolutely isolated that time around, able to blow him up. And Ubao does get to walk back topside.
Knockup now coming through. Hansama looking for the snare setup. Is going to get it. Woody just getting absolutely shredded on the bottom side. There's no room for him to do anything. Waka now starting to dive back, but there's nothing left in the tank.
Now G2 are absolutely destroying PSG in the first 10 minutes of this game, looking a lot more like that second game versus Loud. Maybe it was nerves game one, who can say, but since then G2 have looked absolutely incredible. Making plays on both sides of the map, drawing up all the resources to the top side, and G2's bot lane knowing that there's nothing to stop them from going aggressive. Mickey finding a very nice engage.
Yeah, and now Woody's in such a deficit, Waka's at such a deficit, it's really just hard for them to play this out on even footing. It'll take a mistake from G2 or a jungler really to show presence here to find that advantage to get something back. And, you know, we go back to the draft. Kennen for Broken Blade, a big pick, traded back for this Annie. The Annie has done nothing yet this game, and that sucks. You know, that's such a difficult position where you aim for this power pick, you get level 6, but you're not laning against anyone. Caps rocks up, he throws a barrel down, and he leaves. He does not want anything to do with the Annie.
Well, it's especially so important for Broken Blade to get a champion with side lane pressure there, so they have somewhere to go with this kind of roaming Gragas, Nautilus, whatever play style, and that's why the Kennen ban will probably be looked at in game 2, regardless of where this goes from here. And where I was going was, you know, PSG more of a level 6 comp once Annie gets her flash ultimate available. Lucian Nami can win multiple stages of the lane phase, but of course become most terrifying post 6 once mythics are unlocked, of course. And the fact that they are already this far behind is a bit of a disaster, because your power points, when you're already 3k gold down, means that you're still fighting an uphill battle.
And I think the big thing for me is it would be hard against any champion in League of Legends to be at this deficit, but when you're at this kind of deficit against Kha'Zix, the game becomes, because when Kha'Zix is behind, he doesn't do anything. He's just a bug, like a bug on a windshield. He does absolutely nothing, just splat every single fight.
It's a nuisance.
Nuisance. Now we're like shooting the next sequel in the Alien series where he just comes out of the darkness and one-shots you.
I was gonna go Starship Troopers for my,
okay,
my
that's
bug
fair.
reference.
That's fair.
Yeah.
We could dig the sci-fi bug references.
How old are people watching these days? I don't know. But yeah, I think like the fact that you already have a mythic at 8 minutes for Kha'Zix, first time in this champion, another one that people will have to be looking at. The Nidalee performance was incredible 2 days ago for Yike. This time around, looking really good on the Kha'Zix. They are trying to set up for this dragon here. Maybe this is an angle for PSG. 6 is coming online soon for Woody as well. That they can get a grouped up team fight, which is obviously what they want to do with this
here we go. Full setup here, but Cap spots him and they just walk away. Oh, PSG can just not catch a break in this game. Bottom side of the map, Wako at least able to clear out the way. Maybe he'll be able to go back and complete a mythic, but I think he's still a bit of gold behind here, so doesn't have it quite yet, I believe.
No, shouldn't have it, only sitting on 600 gold in inventory currently.
Oof, another 500.
It's getting tricked by how accelerated Yike is with these kills and assists, as well as just rushing the Eclipse. Much, much faster for him compared to anyone else. And so wherever they see him, they're going to have to respect it and kind of back off. Right now, getting caught out in the river on the pink ward vision. So Wako and Woody will know that soon they'll be under threat and have to be careful for an engage by Mickey. Here's this dragon now being set up. Teleport's available for PSG, so if they want to contest, they can, but I think might want to wait for Drake 2 or something.
I think waiting for those first item spikes just makes a ton of sense. As you highlighted, Yike is so accelerated. He's willing to burn so much just for a dragon when gold is really going to be your big problem. That buff is not going to save you in this game state.
Also, that was a very fast dragon for the fact that you now do Q evolve first, I assume, for the Kha'Zix there, versus a lot of the times W max, which didn't actually increase your damage. It was the slow and kind of team fight that you were often in the old Kha'Zix builds doing, but now with Q level 4, also with the evolve, does a ton of damage, and the cooldown refund on it means that you can actually melt that dragon insanely fast.
Yeah. My favorite Kha'Zix history fun fact is that he's had basically every ability giga nerfed or reworked because it's always been one ability that's been the problem. Alt was OP. He used to take.
You didn't like mini
damage
Alistair
reduction.
alt while invisible? That was probably the
That was the most egregious.
Yeah, there was like the W.
Ooh, knockback here. Mickey now going to go for the follow-up. Annie just getting burned down. Yubao. Night ticking. Not going to get anything there. And honestly, PSG are just running out of options. G2 are doing everything that they want to on the map, and PSG running out of room to play. Now fishing for an opportunity on the top side. Trying to get something
Nice
back.
flash.
Quick flash out for Broken Blade.
Rest
Ready
of
to
the
go,
team.
clean reaction, but now Yike can come in, and again, the stun coming in. If Viego isolates himself, this is going to get bad. Yike does so much damage. He's going to wait for the wave. He's going to take his time, but that's an isolated Viego! Oh, dead man walking. I don't think it gets any better for Aji. Mickey going to fish for the knockup. Aji just going to try to get one back in return, but Caps is here too. It's a house party on the top side of the map, and PSG, we're not invited.
G2 are breaking ankles on the Rift right now, making the play happen in mid lane from the roam from Mickey, and that instantly transfers up to the top side where PSG were looking for their own play. G2 playing well connected here, following up on wherever PSG wants to pressure.
G2 fans feeling it, feeling the energy, feeling the momentum. That guy doesn't even have the right jersey on, but it does not matter. That is how much excitement there is.
Dracos, we don't care.
We're not worried about him. Woody in trouble. Bubble going to come out. The beautiful use of the ultimate from Onsama going to stop it. Wako now trying to fire back. Dash through, going to get it. That's the shutdown. That's big with Broken Blade. Surely should finish the kill. Nice sidestep on the Shuriken from Wako. The cleanse coming out. Can he make it over the wall? Can he E? Can he get out to safety? The dash, the blast cone, the sidestep. He's not going to get hit in the end, but now Caps and Yike on pursuit. Junja going to make it out as well. Well played from Wako to find the kill.
Nice 1-for-1 there, still coming out decently for G2, but does get the teleport out of Broken Blade in order to cover that play. Onsama dropping there. I think it was a shutdown as well, so Wako able to grab his Mythic as well and kind of keep pace at least with the members of G2. He's the hope for the side of PSG. In a lot of their games that we saw, he was the one getting funneled. In terms of gold percent and damage percent, he's one of the highest players in the entire tournament. He is a huge threat, but not quite on the same late game scaling option as he was before.
Yeah, now we take a look back at this play, how it unfolded. You can see the idea, you can see the setup. Aji waiting in the darkness for Broken Blade quick. I think I'm not sure if the Vision spotted him or Broken Blade was just ready to go.
Reaction, baby. Nice reaction out of Broken Blade there, and then the setup, knowing that the rest of the team was coming to back him up. Yike able to run forward, didn't quite grab turret aggro there. Very well played by him. The extended range on the claws there, able to find that kill, and then the rest of the team just showing up. Aji, nice flash, but a little bit too early. The fact that the Annie hadn't quite shown up means that you dropped for nothing.
Difficult situation to play out. 5K gold lead now at 13 minutes into the game, and I think for PSG, it's about evaluating what went wrong in this one. And to me, going back to the basics, opting for more scaling as a safety option would be big here. But when you draft champions that are supposed to match and win early, and you lose this handedly in the early game, you know, it can shake your confidence. So I'm just hoping for PSG's sake that they can keep their eyes on the prize and regroup coming into next game.
I think it's also one of these games where, like, yes, technically these champions should win early, but the specific places that they were picked into is not quite the case. The fact that Gragas gets prio so easily, the fact that Malphite was taken into the cannon, which is something that Broken Blade's obviously extremely proficient in, means that you're going to get pushed in early. That's going to unlock this early move from G2. It's like, yes, these are technically early game champions that want to group up and team fight, but you didn't take them into situations. It's like you almost drafted this comp blind. Like, this is a draft that you could take into almost any other composition, and like in theory it'd be fine. But G2 had answers.
Certainly did. Broken Blade might not, however. Does get out of tower range just in time to reset. He's now going to ult to try to clear the wave. He shouldn't get the chance to die to tower here. I mean, he might die to the tower, but I'm pretty sure Aji's going to get the credit. Little seismic shark.
Make him work for it. I like it, Broken Blade. Don't die to the turret.
Well played. Rubao now just trying to clear the wave out there. Junja now responding. But yeah, make him walk in. Make him slap you down. Don't give it to the tower.
So a nice kill there by PSG, finding the one on Broken Blade. During that time, G2 pressuring mid, also going to be grabbing this Rift Herald. So not the end of the world, but a small bit of gold back into their pockets. Unfortunately, again, Malphite probably not the one who needs to be accelerated the most right now. He's always going to be the R button to engage. During this time, though, it did give them pressure in the bot side, so able to stop any dragon stacking from potentially coming through from G2.
I think at this stage of the game, with this kind of lead, G2 should be trying to accelerate as much as possible.
Yeah, this is probably not a soul point game, if you tell me how this ended.
If I'm shot calling for PSG, you're just trying to keep one objective at a time. We got a dragon, let's see what we can get after that. You know what I mean? Just take it slow, take it simple, because you're at a big deficit. Wako really can't afford to stay in there, but luckily has the dash. We'll make it out to safety.
I appreciate the emote game, despite having a bit of a tough opening matchup here. Still throwing out emotes.
It's the universal language. Everyone understands the sad dog. You know what's happening.
Poor Wako. PSG able to defend as well. They did lose the top turret after the Rift turret was immediately used, but probably not the end of the world. Could have been a lot worse. Mid lane turret's still up. I'm surprised G2 didn't show a little bit more patience and probably drop it down there. It's the fact that Yubao was able to reset and stop the second turret from dropping from the Herald, which I think was probably the game plan.
Observers playing with our hearts here. Hansama stun now coming out, trying to get away from the bear. Very threatening. The knock, not quite going to connect. Excellently played by Yubao, but there's certainly no out of this. He's isolated. He's revealed. Yike is on the hunt now.
They do have mid prio, so there's a chance that they can move up to protect him here.
Run, Tiny Sigourney Weaver. Run. And she's out. Yubao makes it to safety. So good that they have the team there to respond, to recover in that situation. It cost them the flash, traded for the ult upon Sama. If they can capitalize in the next minute, maybe they can get something done. And good news is Wako has been left alone to just farm and continuously push out mid lane. And those caps connects on a body slam. He doesn't have that much kill threat.
Kind of showing the mid game here from PSG being respectable despite how bad the early lane phase went from the map movements from G2. Some of the trades here showing that, hey, we can actually move around the map, understand where pressure is going to flow, how to absorb that, get things on the flip side of the map. Like, I think this is why PSG in their own region was so fearsome. Because if you didn't get a big gold lead like G2 managed to do, a lot of times PSG could safely scale into the mid and late game.
And I think that is a force to be reckoned with. Very often when we see teams from emerging regions come into the tournament, they wampa stomp their entire region. And they come here, and it's like you're contested more in lanes than you're anticipating. You're contested more across roles, and we don't often get to see them play the way that they played domestically. And that's often like kind of frustrating to watch as an international league fan. But the good news for PSG is like they were willing to fall behind. They would fall behind, and they would come back through incredible team fighting, which they showed yesterday. And they're definitely going to need to show more in this series, and certainly in this game if they want to mount a comeback, because it's still 6K deficit.
Still a 6K deficit, getting a little worse there with G2 grabbing the bot inner, or bot outer turret, excuse me. I was about to say that the turret game is not that massive. For how big of a gold lead that it is, the fact that it's only 2 turrets to 0, you would expect maybe a couple more had dropped. So a lot of this gold is not really reclaimable from that perspective, where it's CS and kill gold. Caps in a tricky position.
Tanky boy. Barrel not going to connect, but it goes over! The old Swippy swap.
Oh boy, PSG getting a little bit ahead of themselves there. The barrel not that great by Caps. Obviously was trying to hit the Viego away, but still have flash up. And so once Viego hops the wall, they just do a little switcheroo, get out safely. G2 looking pretty good. Talking about domestic results and how PSG getting contested a little bit more here. G2 actually looking very good. I know a lot of people are concerned about them finishing quote-unquote fourth in the final stage of play, but it was Mad Lions, also El Yoya, saying that he felt like that was the real finals. Them versus G2, he felt like G2 was actually one of the best teams still in Europe.
And we're seeing here that G2 have identified a clear blueprint for success, where they pick these champions and get push early, where they use that push to set up Yike to dive a lane and to focus, and they snowball so rapidly. And you can see this team with a lead, looking pretty confident, but Junja spotting out some unwelcome guests in his jungle.
Mickey trying to cut off the rotation, but a little scary to do versus Annie who has an instant stun.
Yike! That's a lot of damage. Junja now running for his life. Yike gonna find the kill. That's gonna be the charm now coming into Wako, but Wako firing back, pulling on the backside. Meanwhile, the bear has come down, and the shutdown onto Yike coming through. Broken Blade only gonna find one, but Wako is still standing. Caps can do a lot of damage, but Aji is there to body block. Yubao on the side, the bear coming in, just creating a little bit of disruption. Doesn't have the Ryle eyes like support Annie, so can't do a lot! It just gets served right back into the waiting arms of G2. Wako needs to get away from that one, but he can't. There's just too many feathers and too tight a space. G2 finding the fight.
Nice pullback there by Hansama, getting the angle on Wako to root him up. Caps with a nice cask as well to get the knockback on the Annie. Very squishy, like you were saying, just with the Leandri's done there. PSG had a moment to turn there. It was a nice ult by Aja to interrupt Broken Blade comboing down to Wako. Feeling like they had the potential chase down sequence, but not quite there. G2 12-4 in kills, almost 8,000 gold ahead. Here's this play again.
And they think they've caught out the Rakan, and it looks like it's initially positive. I think kind of baited into a false sense of security there.
Yeah, well, just the stealth in that I think came through. You don't see Yike until he's directly on top of Junji and already getting isolated target damage down there that Viego instantly assassinated, where we talk about a lot of this team comp being about finding kills and resets. If the Viego was still alive there, you grab the corpse of Yike and you start resetting through this fight potentially, but because they killed the primary carry in some of these senses, with the Viego dead, there's just no chase down here. Aja, like we said, nice ultimate there to interrupt Broken Blade, but just getting a little bit too greedy, maybe losing track of ultimates to use, not knowing that one's still available for Caps. Hansama here, this was a nice angle on the ultimate pullback.
Yeah, just really nowhere. If the second the root connects, he's dead. Maybe he can get some damage back. Maybe he can take Hansama out of the equation with the bear already on top of his head, but he's not an option that's ultimately going to come through. Cloud Soul is going to be the name of the game. G2 only grabbing their second Drake, so I would still be surprised if this was a Soul game. However, G2 going to take the steps to get there, or at least take it away from PSG. And in that last fight, damage dealt courtesy of AWS. You can see Annie was actually the big factor there alongside the Lucian. No one else on the side of PSG really got involved.
Yeah, the classic Annie ult burn just by walking the bear next to people. Secretly doing a ton of damage.
Yeah, it's
with
kind of
Leandries.
Yeah. Is it fake damage though, like Ezreal and Varus damage numbers, where it's like, yeah, great, you did 1,200 damage per minute, you were shooting arrows at a Scion? Or is it like real damage? Do you think it counts?
It's a little bit of fake damage because it's spread across the entire team, burning down like 10 every second on 5 people. Ends up to be quite a bit for DPS, but it's not the most important damage.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Caps, Mickey off to the side. Wako isolated for now. G2 still playing careful though. Giving some respect to the side of PSG, waiting for someone to slip up, kind of just stepping forward, slowly advancing that vision line. Of course, Aji in the meantime, bottom lane, pushing, looking for that bounty on the tower. Might just give the opportunity for G2 to take this Baron uncontested, though. They should just obliterate this Baron's health bar.
Absolutely a very fast Baron here for G2. So many carry members as well as that Kha'Zix's isolation damage will force PSG to react to it. Just the TP.
Junja, anything else done? Knockback coming through. Woody, isolated, is going to find a bit of a slow. Yubao with the wall. G2, oh, they sniffing out. They're not going to risk. They're not going to go too deep. Respect for the patience.
Did cost Caps his ultimate, so not available, but they start the Baron back up again. Ult for ult, with Woody losing his.
Oh, but they're just in the dark.
Yeah, PSG
it's just
needs
such
to
a
check
flip.
this. I have no idea how fast new Kha'Zix.
I don't know what is happening. Observers, thank you. 4K, getting lower. Mickey now going to go over the wall, but he's not going to connect on anyone. He's immediately going to leap out to safety. He's now turning his attention to the bottom side of the map. Broken Blade now going in, but there's 2 fights. It's a fight split across 2 fronts, but it's Hansama! And as he pulls the feathers back, he finds one, but Junja gets one in return! The Viego popping off, he steals, he goes in his recon! He turns them around, he takes their corpses, and he beats them to hell with it! Junja showing up!
The ex-EDG sub-jungler popping off in that fight. We were talking about the Viego as the critical member to watch. G2 were not able to find him this time. Still a little bit risky.
Unhinged.
Pretty low, but Caps does not have...
He can kill everybody. He just casks in. Oh no! He has to flash out. Caps, he's just going to keep hitting this.
I forgot his ultimate was the one that was used in the initial engage, so it came back up there, instantly blows up Wako, the primary damage dealer. Now,
oh no.
Is Caps going to just solo Baron himself?
I think he is. There's a TP coming in. Who's TPing in? It's going to be the Annie. Yubao on the way. Rakan on the way from the side of G2. They're regrouping. The Baron resets. Nobody gets the Baron. PSG are at a 7K gold deficit, but they're keeping G2 on the ropes.
London breathe a sigh of relief. The Baron did not get turned over there, despite how scrappy that situation is. G2 are still in a fine position here, going to instantly restart the Baron.
Yep. Junja, no flash. Ulti should be up shortly, however. Mickey ready to go over the wall one more time. His ulti's just around the corner. So far away. Wako on the way. Aji on the way. Ulti is going to be up and available for the next fight. 5K getting lower. G2 focused on the prize here. Burning down over the wall. Junja going to get the killing spree. Mickey getting isolated. Mickey getting taken out. Junja's taking one. Is he going to take a second? Does he want to re-engage? He should just stay as the Kha'Zix. He does so much damage. It's getting lower. And he takes it! PSG! Oh, just like every game in their own region, they always find a way. Even here against G2, even at such a massive deficit, they steal the objective. They take the fight. It's a double for Yubao. It is a massive win.
PSG instantly bounce back after the caster curse, find that kill. Yike was so close to the wall. He took the extra spike damage from the Baron. He got stunned up by the Annie and obliterated at the very start of that fight. And then Junjia was able to use that body, like you said, to find so many resets in that fight and secure the Baron buff. Now there was no other jungler left on the map. PSG slingshotting closer to gold now, a 4,000 gold power play already.
The problem is, Mark, if Yike's really fed and Yike dies, now Junja's really fed because Junja's Yike. And that's so infuriating for G2. They're all grouped up and you can see the play here.
Just, I think, a positioning mistake by the rookie here. Yike moving up to the wall here is going to get stunned point blank, insta-gibbed, also having to take so much damage from the enemy team. Baron as well. Once that soul's down, that's a free move into the pit. Actually uses ult but gets the reset immediately by Junjia there, forces everyone else back. Mickey dying as well, able to go in and out so easily by Junjia. Such a heads-up play there by him, finding that kill, then chased down with Mickey's soul, which was left unused that entire time. Very, very nice stuff by him.
You highlighted it in the draft, and we have to say it again. PSG, they knew exactly what they wanted to get out of their composition. They're G2. overstaying their welcome, completely overestimating the advantage that they had built for themselves. Now they have to play so careful. They have to play so perfect because the gold from the touching distance, it's functionally irrelevant. PSG have caught up.
And like we said, PSG's comp in teamfights has a very clear play pattern, which is insta-kill someone and start resetting through the fight. That was Yike, again, arguably the most fit member of the team at that point in time. If they can just kind of reset, refocus, make sure that they start playing these teamfights front to back, not get insta-engaged on.
Backing off. You can see here on the bottom of the screen of the win expectancy powered by AWS. It was just about 100% for G2.
I swear that thing is touching the top bar.
99.9. But the robots did not know about Junja. So I'm just saying.
Jeffrey Bezos making a miscalculation there.
Okay. Junja now in the darkness again. He's strong on the reset. I don't think he could solo Broken Blade though. Don't get up. That's Baron Steel confidence right there. I don't know what he's doing walking up to that cannon.
It's one of those situations where you feel so good after so much momentum has come back to your team. You still need to respect the fact that you're not massively ahead. Play these fights out correctly. Caps, also very strong. 406 can half help Wako with just a single trading pattern there.
Right now we're at a 4K Baron power play. And next Drake on the cards. Who is going to get it? PSG.
I think this is a trap. I feel like PSG should be spending more time pushing and working down extra gold into their pockets, getting bot outer turret, things like that. Caps is very happy to just eat mid pressure. This is not an important dragon in the greater scheme of the game to be using the Baron buff on
this. He has vision too. He can just walk in. Should be easy isolation. Kha'Zix just takes it back. Steal for steal, 1 for 1 here in the game thus far.
Isolated Q and auto damage there combined with the smite gets Yike that dragon steal, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. Not the most important objective to be grabbing. PSG should be looking for gold with this Baron buff. The fact that Yike could steal that one away after such a large time commitment is a bit of a breath of relief for G2, who were just starting to feel the pressure.
Now, that much closer to Soul Point, 4.5 minutes till they'll be able to at least attempt to grab Cloud Soul for themselves. Fantastic for the Xayah and Rakan, Kennen, most every champion on their team. Happy to control that CDR. Now looking across the opposite side, still feels like the same main play for PSG. We've said it a million times, but you just blow up someone, preferably Kha'Zix or Gragas, and then you use their skills to blow up everyone else on G2, because it's really not a high damage composition. If Wako is not in range to auto attack, this Viego build in an extended trade will do a lot, but this is not big burst damage like you're going to get from Broken Blade, like you're going to get from Yike.
I mean, the one nice thing for PSG side is that G2 does not really have true tanks. The closest thing is Caps, who is quite tanky and hard to kill once he's taken his drink. But if you're targeting anyone else, you can basically kill them just with a combination of the top side of the map.
Mickey going in, now has to deep, but he doesn't get a chance! The CC perfectly layered, that's one reset. Junja now stepping forward. He's squishing Rakan, but still peek his head if he wants to, but PSG just going to be happy to pick for now. There's nothing really to play for. That death won't cost G2 a lot unless they overcommit in the duration of Mickey's death.
I do think it makes G2 harder to execute on their strength, as Stride Breaker forced out there just with the Lucian dash. So a nice little advantage. Wako still has his if he wants to go again. Once the ultimate is up, should be a shorter cooldown on the culling. But yeah, it's constraining G2. The thing that they were doing so well in the early game was these map movements, catching PSG out in the jungle, getting up to lanes faster. And even though, you know, the gold lead is still in their favor, they have been pushed back onto their side of the map finally. They have deep wards now for PSG to track the Gragas and Kha'Zix to make sure that there's none of these surprise attacks that have been the problem that PSG is facing.
Let's take stock of what has happened this game, because G2 were wildly far ahead. I felt like this was over. I felt like it was back to the drawing board. PSG have a composition that scales fine, has a lot of great team fighting utility. You highlighted the strategies it wants to use, but it was not the Jinx. It was not the Aphelios. But despite that, PSG are finding these windows of opportunity. They're punishing G2 when G2 get greedy. And we went from 6-7K gold lead to essentially dead even. 30 minutes in the game. Massive credit to PSG making the most out of this composition, even if they couldn't show it in the early game, to really show up here in this late game.
Yeah, very impressive stuff out of PSG. Why they were so feared in their own region, why so many pundits were expecting them to be one of the teams that could get out of this pretty tough stage 1 of MSI. This late game team fighting cannot be undervalued, and the fact that they know how to execute their comps, they've been doing it a lot better here in this later portion of the game. Anyone who steps forward by G2 can instantly get evaporated. The fact that, of course, with Kennen no longer going Zhonya's in most of his builds, focusing on damage means that he is also a target that you can focus down very early, and now G2 have to walk in and kind of present a target for PSG to try and annihilate.
Big damage, that's the power of that RSC at this point in the game. Just able to shoot over the wall, able to get that extra damage down. Mickey getting isolated, burning the W, can wait on those cooldowns. Has to be careful about grouping though. The Rakan engaged that is big. Yike waiting off to the side, but he's on vision, crucially.
Big mistake by Yubao there. Had the Q stun charge, but pressed W as well. Didn't get the stun, invaded Wako's ultimate. So a number of cooldowns down now for PSG. Not quite having the same pressure that they should. Back off here. They were trying to chip out Mickey, but did have a little bit of miscoordination.
And G2 just bullying their way into the river, threatening, knowing that those cooldowns are down. Broken Blade TP'd into the top lane just to be ready to respond. Won't be able to find a flank with the TP, but does get some top lane prio. Wave and bot lane pushing as well. So PSG, they're burning money to be here.
This is the clapping guy in reverse in the movie theater gif where G2 was looking so good early on, and now it's become so tense as it feels like any one of these fights could be the next one that decides the game. Baron on the table means that you will have so much pushing power should you win it.
Certainly does. Recalls now coming in. PSG staggering them to make sure that they can show some presence here, but again, have to be careful. Wako isolated. Junja waiting to come in.
You see that kind of, it's almost like jousting, you know, where you're just looking at each other I'm going to poke you, you might W onto me, I'm going to dash it, and then you're going to die. You know, just trying to bait Mickey to use his cooldowns. And for Junjie, even that's a great target to start resetting onto. Get that W extra CC and engage available.
Instantly ult again, just to be right onto the back line, exactly where you want to be. Baron started, G2, it's a dark map. Clear out mid, they can play this one solo. How quickly can PSG burn through this? Not very. They don't really have the upfront damage, especially with Yubao not hitting the objective, but instead the Andy gonna pitch for a pick on Mickey. They're gonna burn Mickey before the fight even starts, but Broken Blade coming over the wall. Mickey taken down, but Wako goes golden. Wako buys a brief moment of time. They're now all on the tree because Broken Blade has obliterated the back line of PSG. The Cask coming in, the Cask finding the kill, but Yubao now firing back. Junja now running for his life. Cask captures to finish the kill because Aji is still alive. Yike. Oh, he's hunting now. The Kazakh's not quite gonna connect. Cap's going over the wall. Junja, there's just no way you make it out of this one. The Divine Sunder are not enough. The footwork is clean, but that's a huge shutdown. Yubao now coming in. TP now coming in. Yike needs to get out of this one. The stun now coming in. The bubble to follow. Easy peasy CC layering. Yubao now unstoppable. And in the extended fight, PSG once again coming out on top.
Such a splintered fight there happening on different parts of the river. Both AD carries getting kind of obliterated by all this engage here. It's a nice idea to focus down Mickey X at the very beginning, but it kind of leaves the left side of the fight open for Junji to get chunked out as he's trying to get in range. Obviously, he didn't get any damage down, so the soul's not available for him. And then Broken Blade, critically, getting Wako so low. This is where you allow Junji to get kind of poked out heavily. Oh, we don't have time to talk about it. Got Dragon Fight.
Dragon Fight, Dragon Soul. Jungler still dead, 13 seconds. 6 seconds on the side of PSG.
Great flip here by G2 with no smite available. If you're able to get this, you get the soul. If not, it's not a big deal. PSG only on their second dragon.
Yubao waiting, looking for the setup. Broken Blade off to the side. PSG have to be careful here. If Broken Blade finds this flank, this fight is over in an instant. Yubao stepping forward, trying to burn through Caps, but that's Broken Blade off to the side. PSG! Oh, they put themselves in the pit, but you cannot out-pit fight the Kennen, or can you? Aji is so damn big! Broken Blade, he burned the ultimate, but the Malphite still stands. Yike here to try and save the day, but will it be enough? Junja can't find the reset. Junja does not get an opportunity, and that means G2 will take it. Yike continuing to tear through. The shutdown coming in for Aji. Aji refusing to die, but he is finally isolated, and Yike will shred through the health bar. He will climb that mountain, and G2 will take the exchange.
G2 get the ace, PSG get the dragon, but the Baron is left alive. G2 should have enough damage to grab this one down. Hopefully they have enough tankiness, but that was a huge fight there. Able to blow up Wako at the very start of it. Take another look here. Caps, huge Cask. Yubao does get his ultimate off as they try and burst him down, but the combination of all those engaged tools, Mickey, Broken Blade, and Caps finds those kills. Ansama does end up in the pit next to a Malphite, and the Annie ult, the fact that it was left alive this entire time, actually did a ton of damage to him, allows him to focus it down. Yike, both of them were in the pit, not isolated though, so maybe that's why it was a little bit less burst damage than he was expecting, but either way, Smite Fight goes to Junjia, but he drops right afterwards. Kazak's able to find that kill. The three members of G2 cleaning up the rest of the fight.
Ooh, G2 winning the fight. While neither team has claimed victory yet, we've crossed an impressive milestone. G2 fans, make some noise. 500 kills for G2 Caps on an international stage. What a milestone, what a player. Obviously, a ton of history that we talk about countless times. In this game, we're keeping it more focused on the tournament in front of us, but the history, the pedigree, always something that has to be respected and celebrated. Now checking in again on the game state, man. G2, more significant lead. If they can do something with this Baron, I think that they are back, quote-unquote, in control of this game.
3 players ahead of Caps in terms of kills. Jahu, Perks, and Faker are the 3. So pretty great company for Caps, one of the greatest players of all time. trying to make another deep MSI run here with G2 after a somewhat disappointing end for fans' expectations for the team in the spring split, but all will be forgiven with a deep run here. And while it has been a very hard-fought game, G2 are now in a strong position, getting their first Baron of the game and instantly starting to make work of it, take down these inner turrets. Probably not the game-ending Baron. There'll probably be some more fights, another Dragon fight for Soul, most likely, but they'll be going in with much deeper pockets when that comes around, assuming they can break this inner turret. Maybe they'll find the engage, though. Cap's looking for an angle.
Wako just needs to sidestep all of this poke. He just doesn't really have the range to walk up here. Huge damage onto Woody. Not following up on that one quite yet, and again, pulling the trigger on the wrong engage for either side could be game-ending.
So tense. You want to defend the minion wave, but you don't want to step too far forward and give Caps an angle on it. Wako playing to the left side, knowing that Caps is on the right side, trying to avoid him.
Cass coming out, knocking Wako back, just creating a little bit of space. Yeah, continuing to usher in minions on the bottom side, has been left isolated. A tough target to lock down. Aji waiting over the wall. Caps now coming in. PSG constantly setting up and looking for these angles, looking for these opportunities. Similar story, both sides just jousting, as you highlighted, looking for a weakness, trying to bait out a cooldown, hoping someone mispositions next to a wall, and either side finding that opportunity yet. But G2 walking away with 2 towers, happy to have an extra 3K on that Baron power play. And I think that's all we're going to see from that objective. Again, a minute 47. How Cloud Soul is on the table for them once again.
Nice 6K gold advantage at the tail end of that, taking that reset, starting to set up for what will be the Dragon situation. Already a lot of pink wards available for the side of G2. You can see all 3 of these will have to get cleared out by PSG as they work their way in here. Careful though, yike.
Huge damage on Jinja. Going to be able to immediately burst him down though. Raptor's there just to make sure that he's not isolated. Has to be careful though, the lower he gets, the easier this is going to be.
Edge of Night coming up pretty clutch there for Yike. The W didn't land by Jinjia to pop it, but it is something that you'll have to work through in a trade sequence for Jinjia. The fact that he's going to nullify one of those spells is pretty big. Despite some of the oopsies Yike has had this game, he still feels like the most important member on the team. If he's left alive, he can absolutely clean up through these fights. That's exactly what happened in that Dragon situation. In fights where he's killed early, Jinjia gets to take over that body, like you said, and start running over the fight. With the GA completed, though, that does mean that he cannot be focused down first, most likely by PSG. That's a huge pickup in context of how PSG wants the team fight.
And I think it's really going to be hard to get value out of the Viego passive in these fights because there are so many people with GAs now with, you know, the Hourglass and the Caps has been there for a while. We've got a stopwatch for Broken Blade as well. Not stopping over for the full Hourglass, but just picking that up to make sure with his full AP build that he does not get picked up because very easily we could see Viego taking the Kennen form and then, you know, one-shotting someone if he missteps in a fight.
You can also see Wako kind of adapting to the double magic soul laners, grabbing the Hex Drinker for himself. Basically everything available for everyone all sums up as we head to what could be the last team fight here around the Dragon. If G2 can grab this, they will have soul for the rest of the game.
Broken Blade breaking open mid lane though. PSG overcommitting resources into the area just to show presence. G2 not getting baited in, not over-forcing for vision or control, instead just sending Broken Blade mid lane.
Aji working the flank angle, no wards in their own jungle. For G2 really, only one on the Raptor camp, though the blast cone well done by Mickey there to spot out the Malphite.
Pot popped, looks like for Woody. Elixir of Fortitude just wants to survive, just through one fight. The Broken Blade just ready to walk down the mid lane and end the game. Again, you highlighted before, this isn't soul for the side of PSG, so even if they get this, I don't know if it's worth giving up the inhibitor. Fight steal, pick off. Yike gonna walk in and take it anyway. It's soul for G2. It's TP on the backside. Broken Blade looking for the solo kill in the mid lane. PSG. Glimmers of hope, but it's all falling apart. That's the Bomba shredding through the entire team. Junja can't get anything done. Yike will finally get taken down, but the GA comes out and stops Viego from finding the reset. Wako on the backside trying to get some damage down, but Hansama continuing to step forward. Junja on the backside must escape. PSG well and truly routed. Aji coming over the wall, but what can he get done? Caps goes golden. Yike! A moment, Yike on the way in. He finds one. He's looking for more resets left and right. Isolated targets. Eden PSG alive as G2 descend on their base. They will take game one. PSG put up a valiant effort to come back from a catastrophic early game, but at the end of the day, G2 out-execute, and G2 will find the win in game one.
G2 stay alive in game one, bounce back after a bit of an oopsie play at the Baron, grab the first game of the best of three versus PSG, 1 game away from the main stage of MSI now for G2.
And you know what? Sick game. Yeah,
that was a fun one.
As an EU pundit, do you want a little more cleanness from G2? Yeah. But if they were clean, would they be G2? Probably not. So you take them where you can get them. And honestly, if they're all that entertaining, I just want 3 games.
And you're still seeing what makes them so great. In that last sequence, the map setup where Broken Blade has the pressure in the mid lane, baits Yubao in there, kills him, then TP's in to rejoin the fight while also stealing the soul point. There's so many things that make G2 so dynamic. Yes, sometimes that means they overextend and make mistakes, but you can see why they're going to be such a threat for teams in this tournament is they're always willing to find creative angles to force fights how they want them. The fact that you pull the ante away from a big grouped up fight, which is exactly what you would normally be wanting to do, shows that kind of on-the-fly problem solving.
Yeah, it's an incredibly veteran team, and it's one of the strengths that you don't always get to see if you don't see games go late like this. But the heads up to make 2 pressure points on the map instead of kind of just handshaking on grouping up for this big objective or getting blinded by something that seems as important as a Cloud Soul. They see themselves on the camera. They're laughing. They're having a good time. And see what they plan for game 2 if they just want to run it back and if there's adaptation on the side of PSG, because while there were shining moments for PSG, I wonder if they feel like it was just an early game execution or if they feel like draft is at the root of the issue.
There's so many things that PSG can do moving into game 2. They were red side here. They went for a very interesting strategy of kind of leaving up a lot of the things that people would call the OPs, target banning a lot of members of G2 instead. Now they'll have side selection. Do they want to go blue side and kind of go back to a more standard thing? Like we said, they're usually a more slow pace, low combined kills per minute team, focusing on late game scaling. That's all on the table. They could go red side and try and run it back because admittedly they had a Baron. They were pretty close to that game. I think their Baron usage could have been improved as well.
I'm ready. I love everything you just listed.
Just run it back.
Can we just
skip
watch
the
it
analyst
again?
desk,
Can we
get
just
him
go
back on
straight into
stage.
game? Well, first we have to go to break. We'll be back after this. The analyst desk is going to prepare us for the next game in this series. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a moment.